As much as we try to avoid it, suffering and pain are part of life, aren't they? We don't live in a perfect world, and our bodies aren't machines incapable of feeling pain. We get sick or hurt physically and emotionally, and we suffer. And if we have any ounce of love for another, we will suffer with them. We will suffer because we will hurt when they hurt. That's part of the nature of love, to share the pain as well as the joy of those whom we love. And so it is with God, who loves us more than we can fathom. In 1981, at a Sacred Heart conference in Toulouse, France, then Cardinal Ratzinger boldly stated, "God is a sufferer because he is a lover." He then went on to quote from the French philosopher Jacques Maritain, "God suffers with us, and in doing so he suffers more than we do. As long as there is suffering in the world, he shares this suffering. He experiences compassion." That word compassion, comes from two Latin words that mean to suffer with. This is the meaning of the Incarnation and the birth of Jesus, which we celebrate at Christmas. God became human and shared in the sufferings of humanity and even our death. He was born in a cold stable or cave because there was no room for his family in the human lodgings of Bethlehem. 8 days after his birth, he cried when the first drops of his blood were shed at his circumcision. He became a refugee when his life was threatened, and his mother and foster father took him safely to Egypt. In time, he was arrested and tortured and nailed to a cross on which he died a painful death. The Son of God suffered terribly because he loved tremendously. As the letter to the Hebrews points out, we have a compassionate high priest who had to become like his brothers and sisters in every way. Because he himself was tested through what he suffered, he is able to help those who are being tested. This is the mystery behind Pope Benedict's general prayer intention this month. We're praying that our own experience of suffering may help us to better understand the pain of the many people in our world who are alone, sick, or aged. We're praying that our own experience of having been there, of having suffered ourselves, will stir us to give generous help to those in need. This is the mystery of the Incarnation lived out today. We are the body of Christ, and whatever we do for anyone who is suffering, we do for Christ, who continues, as Maritain pointed out, to share in the pain of all those who suffer. We are the body of Christ. His heart is enfleshed now in us. Through baptism and the Holy Eucharist, we are one with him, and it is through us now that Jesus reaches out to care for the lonely, the sick, and all who suffer in any way. The world, with its culture of death, has a very different view of suffering. It thinks it is compassionate and loving when it tries at all costs to avoid pain and to kill the pain of anyone who suffers. And when the pain cannot be killed, then the person in pain is killed. The world calls this mercy killing and claims that if we put animals out of their misery, we should at least do as much for humans. Jesus shows us a different way, the way of love. He walked with people in their pain and shared it, even to the point of taking upon himself the sins and sorrows and sufferings of the entire world. As members of his body, may we do the same now, especially during the holiday season when so many people in our world feel the burden of their loneliness and pain. Then we will truly have a blessed Christmas, because we'll be honoring the one who showed us that the way of love, though it involves pain, is ultimately the way to a joy that the world can never take away.